The Silent Guardians. The Orion Collective's scout vessel, Harmonious Seeker, slipped into the Sol system with barely a ripple in space-time. Its adaptive skin absorbed all radiation, making it virtually undetectable to primitive scanning systems. Commander Talax Vos stood on the command deck, his 4 arms resting casually against the sensory console as his large compound eyes studied the blue-green planet ahead. "Final scans confirm," Commander, reported Science Officer Merrill. "Class 3 civilization. Radio transmissions, limited orbital infrastructure, fossil fuel dependence. Precisely as our long-range surveys indicated." Talax nodded, the gill-like structures on his neck fluttering with anticipation. After 3 centuries of methodical expansion through their arm of the galaxy, the Orion Collective had perfected the art of first contact. They had incorporated 17 different species into their peaceful federation, each following the predictable trajectory of technological development. "Initiate standard observation protocols," Talax ordered. "We'll monitor for 1 local orbital cycle before making formal contact." The bridge crew worked in silent efficiency, deploying microscopic observation drones toward Earth. The Orion Collective prided itself on its methodical approach to incorporating new species. Study, observe, contact, guide. The pattern never varied. "Sir, I'm detecting an anomaly," Sensor Operator Jen suddenly announced, her voice carrying unusual tension. "Energy signature at coordinates 47 Mark 93. "Classification?" Talax asked, moving to her station. "Unknown, sir. It doesn't match any pattern in our database." Talax frowned. This was unusual but not unprecedented. Occasionally, Class 3 civilizations developed experimental technologies that produced odd readings. "Deploy a focused scan drone." The tiny probe accelerated toward the coordinates, transmitting real-time data back to the Harmonious Seeker. The bridge fell silent as the readings appeared on the main view screen. "That's impossible," Merrill whispered, mandibles clicking with agitation. "These energy patterns suggest gravitic manipulation far beyond Class 3 capability." Before Talax could respond, the ship's emergency systems activated. Warning glyphs flashed across every console as the ship automatically initiated evasive protocols. "Multiple objects approaching at superluminal velocity," Jen shouted. "Emergence patterns indicate controlled deceleration." Talax had barely registered this impossibility when space itself seemed to fold before them. 7 sleek vessels of unfamiliar design materialized in perfect formation, completely surrounding the Harmonious Seeker. Their hulls appeared to be made of some dark material that absorbed light rather than reflected it, interrupted only by pulsing lines of blue energy that ran along their length like digital veins. The largest vessel, a behemoth that dwarfed the Harmonious Seeker by at least 5 times, moved directly in front of them, its design unlike anything in the Collective's databases. It wasn't the crystalline architecture of the Meridian Alliance, nor the biomechanical forms favored by the Centaur Conclave. This was something entirely new. "We're being scanned," Merrill reported, her voice steady despite the impossibility of what was happening. "Multiple frequencies, including several we've never encountered before." "Open communications," Talax ordered. "Standard diplomatic channels." "Sir," Communications Officer Ervik interrupted. "They're already transmitting. On all frequencies, including our encrypted command channel." Talax felt his blood run cold. The command channel's encryption was considered unbreakable. "On screen," he managed. The view screen shifted to reveal a human face, a female with dark skin and eyes that seemed to reflect the same blue energy that coursed through the ships. She wore a simple black uniform with no visible insignia. "Orion Collective vessel, Harmonious Seeker," she said in perfect standard Galactic, her voice calm and measured. "I am Admiral Kira Chen of the Earth Defense Fleet. You have entered protected space without authorization. State your intentions." The bridge crew froze in collective shock. This wasn't just impossible. It violated everything they knew about technological development. Humans shouldn't even know about the existence of alien life, let alone recognize their ship design or speak their language. "This is Commander Talax Vos," he responded, struggling to maintain the dignified composure expected of a collective representative. "We come in peace, seeking cultural exchange and mutual advancement as we have with many species. May I ask how you detected our presence? Our vessel incorporates stealth technology that should be beyond your civilization's detection capabilities." Admiral Chen's expression remained neutral. "Commander Vos, your assumptions about Earth's technological capabilities are based on incomplete information." The view screen split to show a three-dimensional map of the Sol system, highlighting hundreds of structures that hadn't appeared on their scans. Orbital platforms, lunar installations, and what appeared to be massive shipyards hidden within the asteroid belt. "We detected your vessel the moment you crossed the Kuiper Belt," Chen continued. "Your stealth systems are impressive, but they rely on principles we surpassed nearly 70 years ago." Talax exchanged glances with Merle, whose scientific curiosity was clearly overriding her shock. "Admiral Chen," Talax said carefully, "our extensive observations indicated Earth as a Class 3 civilization. Your visible infrastructure, your communications, energy usage patterns, planetary development, all conform to that classification." For the first time, Chen's expression changed, a slight smile appearing. "Yes, they do." The implication hit Talax like a gravitational wave. "You've been concealing your true development level. Deliberately." "A necessary precaution," Chen replied. "The galaxy is more dangerous than the Orion Collective realizes. Your peaceful expansion is admirable but naive." Before Talax could respond, Chen's console erupted with new warnings. "Commander, massive energy surge from the third planet. Something's coming." The view screen shifted to show Earth's night side, where an enormous structure was rising from the Atlantic Ocean. A platform at least 20 kilometers in diameter, water cascading from its edges as it ascended into the atmosphere. "What you're witnessing," Chen explained, "is the emergence of Luna Actual, Earth's primary defense platform. Normally, it remains submerged to maintain our technological facade." The platform continued its ascent, breaking through the cloud layer and revealing a vast array of technologies that even the Collective's most advanced worlds would consider theoretical. At its center stood what could only be described as a weapon, a massive apparatus that seemed to bend light around it. "For the past century," Chen continued, "humanity has maintained the appearance of a developing civilization while preparing for what we know is coming. We have concealed our true capabilities from the galaxy at large, allowing threats to pass us by in search of seemingly more advanced targets." "Threats?" Talax asked. "The galaxy has enjoyed a period of unprecedented peace since the formation of the major alliances." Chen's expression darkened. "Peace is an illusion, Commander. Beyond the borders of your collective, beyond even the Centauri Conclave's territory, something has been systematically eliminating advanced civilizations. We detected their approach 50 years ago, a force that leaves nothing but dead worlds in its wake." The view screen changed again, showing grainy footage of a distant planetary system. Talax recognized it as HD 85,512, a world the Collective had planned to survey next year. The footage showed the planet enveloped by what appeared to be a living shadow, its cities blinking out one by one until the entire world went dark. "We call them the Void Harbingers," Chen said. "They seek out and destroy any civilization that reaches a certain technological threshold. We believe they perceive advanced technology as a threat to their existence." "Why didn't you warn the Collective?" Merrill interjected, unable to contain herself. "If this threat is real, would you have believed us?" Chen interrupted. "A supposedly primitive species claiming knowledge of an existential threat beyond your detection capabilities. Or would you have assumed we were delusional, possibly dangerous?" Talax had no answer. She was right. The Collective would have dismissed such claims from a Class 3 civilization. "The Harbingers will reach the edge of collective space within 3 standard months," Chen continued. They're drawn to the energy signatures of your most advanced worlds. We've been preparing to intercept them, but we can't do it alone. You want an alliance, Talax realized. We need an alliance, Chen corrected. Humanity has developed technologies specifically designed to combat the Harbingers, but we lack the numbers. The collective has the fleet capacity we need. Talax studied the human admiral carefully. Everything about this encounter defied the collective's understanding of how species develop, yet the evidence was irrefutable. Either humans had somehow leaped centuries ahead in technological development, or they had received outside help. These technologies, he said carefully, they're unlike anything in our records. How did you develop them independently? Chen's expression remained unreadable. We didn't develop them independently, Commander. We had help. The view screen changed again, this time showing what appeared to be a massive orbital structure hidden behind Jupiter's magnetic field. Its architecture was eerily familiar yet fundamentally alien, curves and angles that seemed to fold in on themselves in impossible ways. 63 years ago, a damaged vessel entered our system, carrying the last survivors of a civilization called the Arcturus Compact. They had fled the destruction of their homeworld by the Harbingers, carrying with them the technological knowledge of hundreds of worlds the Harbingers had already consumed. The image zoomed in to reveal beings unlike any Talax had encountered, tall, ethereal creatures with translucent skin that seemed to pulse with internal light. They offered us a choice: maintain our development trajectory and eventually face extinction, or accept their knowledge and prepare for the coming storm. We chose survival. The implications staggered Talax, an entire advanced civilization, hidden within the Sol system, incorporating technologies from a refugee species. It defied all the collective's assumptions about how the galaxy functioned. The Arcturians helped us leap forward centuries in development, Chen continued, but they also taught us the importance of secrecy. The Harbingers are drawn to technological signatures above a certain threshold. By maintaining our facade as a developing world, we've remained beneath their notice. Until now, Talax observed, your defense platform is fully shielded, Chen completed. But yes, we've revealed ourselves because time is running out. The Harbingers are accelerating their consumption pattern. We need to form a united front before they reach populated collective worlds. Talax turned to his crew, seeing the same mixture of fear and fascination on their faces that he felt himself. Everything they thought they knew about the galaxy's power structure had just been upended. Admiral Chen, he said finally, I lack the authority to form an alliance of this magnitude. I must contact the Collective Council. Of course, Chen nodded. We anticipated this. We're prepared to provide all evidence of the Harbinger threat, including the testimonies of the Arcturian survivors. As if on cue, one of the smaller human vessels moved alongside the Harmonious Seeker, establishing a secure data link. Information began flowing into their systems: star charts, attack patterns, weapon specifications, and footage from dozens of worlds that had fallen to the Harbingers. This is just the beginning, Chen said as Talax scrolled through the data, his compound eyes widening at each new revelation. What your people need to understand, Commander, is that humanity doesn't want to conquer or control. We want to survive. And for that, we need partners who understand what we're facing. Talax looked up from the data, meeting the human's steady gaze. In that moment, he understood something profound about this species that had hidden in plain sight. Humans hadn't just been preparing for war. They had been carrying the burden of knowledge alone, knowing that the galaxy remained blissfully ignorant of the approaching storm. The Collective Council will need to be convinced, he said finally. But you'll have my full support, Admiral Chen. What you've shown me today. He paused, struggling to find the right words. It changes everything. That's precisely what we're counting on, Commander, Chen replied, her expression softening slightly. Because what's coming will change everything regardless. The only question is whether civilization survives that change. As the Harmonious Seeker prepared to transmit its emergency report to the Collective Council, Telex couldn't help but wonder what other assumptions about the galaxy were about to be shattered. One thing was certain. The peaceful expansion the collective had enjoyed for centuries was over. A storm was coming, and humanity, this supposedly primitive species, might be the galaxy's only hope of weathering it. The Convergence. 3 weeks later, the Orion Collective's emergency response fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system. 27 warships representing the largest military deployment in the Collective's history. Admiral Soren Keleth, a veteran of the border conflicts with the Centauri Conclave, stood on the command deck of the dreadnought Luminous Accord, his expression grave as he studied the tactical display. "Deploy sensor arrays," he ordered. Full spectrum analysis of the system. The readings that returned confirmed everything in Commander Talax's report. Earth's technological development was far beyond its apparent Class 3 status. The supposedly primitive humans had somehow created a defense network that rivaled anything in known space. "Admiral," his communications officer called, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command." Admiral Keleth nodded. On screen, Admiral Kira Chen appeared, now wearing a more formal uniform adorned with subtle insignia. "Admiral Keleth, welcome to Sol. Your prompt response is appreciated." The Council found Commander Talax's report compelling, Keleth replied carefully, though I must admit, many remain skeptical. Chen's expression didn't change. Skepticism is understandable. We've dedicated considerable resources to maintaining our facade. However, time is short. The Harbinger Vanguard has accelerated. Our deep space monitors detected their approach at the edge of the Arcturus sector. They'll reach collective space within 6 weeks, not 3 months as we previously estimated. Keleth felt a chill. Arcturus was much closer than anticipated. "I've been authorized to evaluate your claims and capabilities before committing collective forces to any joint action," he said. "Of course, we've prepared a full briefing at Luna Actual. A delegation of Arcturian survivors will be present to provide context about the Harbingers." 12 hours later, Keleth found himself standing in a vast circular chamber aboard the Luna Actual platform, surrounded by holographic displays showing the advancing Harbinger fleet. Beside him stood Commander Talax, Science Officer Merrill, and representatives from the Collective's Strategic Command. The Arcturians were unlike any species Keleth had encountered. Their translucent bodies pulsed with internal light that shifted hues as they spoke. The eldest among them, Nexus Fair, addressed the gathering using a device that translated their thoughts directly. For millennium, the Arcturus compact expanded peacefully through 3 spiral arms. Ver's thoughts resonated in their minds. "We encountered and uplifted dozens of species, believing that technological advancement was the path to transcendence. We were wrong." The holographic displays shifted to show footage of massive shadow-like vessels consuming an entire planetary system. The Harbingers emerged from the galactic core 2 centuries ago. We believed at first that they were simply another spacefaring species. We attempted communication. We offered friendship. The displays showed the destruction of what must have been the Arcturian homeworld, a beautiful crystalline planet with orbiting cities that resembled delicate snowflakes. The Harbinger vessels surrounded it, extending tendrils of void-like material that seemed to devour light itself. They answered with annihilation, not conquest, not subjugation, complete eradication. They consumed our worlds, our technology, our people. We learned too late that they are not a species as we understand the concept. They are anti-technology incarnate, a response to what they perceive as infection in the cosmos. Admiral Chen stepped forward. "The Arcturians helped us understand that the Harbingers target systems with specific energy signatures, the kind produced by advanced quantum technologies, zero-point energy systems, and artificial intelligence networks. All technologies that form the backbone of collective civilization," Keleth observed grimly. "Precisely," Chen nodded. "Which is why we've developed alternative approaches." The holographic display changed to show schematics of Earth's defensive systems and fleet. Keleth studied them carefully, his strategic mind noting elements that seemed almost primitive alongside innovations he could barely comprehend. "You've deliberately avoided quantum technology," he observed. "We use it," Chen corrected, "but differently. The harbingers detect standard implementation of quantum systems because they create specific ripples in subspace. Our approach is biological rather than mechanical." Merrill leaned forward, her scientific curiosity piqued. "Biological quantum systems. That's theoretical at best." One of the human scientists, Dr. Elias Reyes, activated a new display showing what appeared to be human neural tissue interfaced with crystalline structures. "Not theoretical, Officer Merrill. We integrated Arcturian biotechnology with human neurology. The result is quantum computing that operates within a biological matrix, essentially invisible to harbinger detection methods. Every ship in Earth's fleet," Chen added, "incorporates human operators neurally linked to these bioquantum systems. We call them navigators. They don't just pilot our vessels. They become them, extending human consciousness into the ship's systems." Calith exchanged glances with Commander Tellax. The implications were staggering and deeply unsettling. Even the most advanced collective worlds considered neural integration to be ethically problematic. "These navigators," Calith said carefully. "They volunteer for this integration." "Every navigator is a volunteer," Chen confirmed. "The process is reversible, and their service rotations are limited to prevent psychological impact. It's not a perfect solution, but it allows us to use advanced technology while remaining virtually invisible to harbinger detection systems." The briefing continued for hours as the humans and Arcturians shared everything they knew about the harbingers, their attack patterns, weaknesses, and the theories about their origins. By the time they finished, Calith had come to a sobering conclusion. The collective was woefully unprepared for this threat. "Your evidence is overwhelming," he acknowledged finally. "I will recommend full cooperation with Earth forces. However, retrofitting our fleet with your bioquantum systems would take months we don't have." "We don't expect you to transform your entire battle doctrine overnight," Chen replied. "We have a more immediate solution." The holographic display shifted to show a massive structure hidden in Earth's asteroid belt, a shipyard unlike anything Calith had seen before. Within it floated dozens of vessels that combined collective design philosophies with human innovations. "We've been building these for the past decade," Chen explained. "Hybrid vessels designed to be operated by both human navigators and collective crews. They incorporate our bioquantum systems, but retain control interfaces your people are familiar with." Calith stared at the display in disbelief. "You built an entire fleet. For us." "For all of us," Chen corrected. "Earth can't stand alone against what's coming. Neither can the collective. Our only hope is to fight together, combining your tactical experience with our technological innovations." The implications weren't lost on Calith. For decades, these supposedly primitive humans had been preparing for an existential threat, building ships for allies who didn't even know they existed yet. The level of foresight was both impressive and humbling. "The Council will need to be informed," Calith said finally. "But given the time frame, I'm authorizing immediate joint operations under my authority as Fleet Admiral." Chen nodded, visible relief crossing her features. "Thank you, Admiral. We'll begin crew integration immediately." 3 days later, the newly formed Human Collective Defense Force departed the Sol system. 57 vessels incorporating both fleets, bound for the Arcturus sector to intercept the Harbinger Vanguard before it could reach populated worlds. Aboard the flagship Defiance, a hybrid vessel combining the best of both species' technologies, Admiral Calith stood beside Admiral Chen on the command deck. Before them, the navigator interface hummed with energy as Lieutenant Maya Okafor, one of Earth's most talented navigators, prepared to link with the ship's systems. "The neural interface process is disconcerting to witness the first time," Chen warned, "but it's completely safe." Calith watched as Okafor was seated in a crystalline chamber filled with a luminescent fluid. As the chamber sealed, fine filaments extended from its walls, connecting with neural ports implanted along her spine and skull. Initiating synchronization, announced the navigator's assistant. Bioquantum stability at 98% and rising. The chamber began to glow from within as Okafor's consciousness expanded into the ship's systems. On the main view screen, systems that had been dormant suddenly activated, displays shifting to show sensor information far beyond conventional parameters. Navigator integration complete, the assistant reported. The Defiance is fully operational. The difference was immediately apparent. The ship felt more responsive, more alive somehow. Sensor readings were clearer, reaction times faster. Through the navigator's expanded awareness, the Defiance was perceiving space in ways collective technology never could. Remarkable, Calith admitted. Though I still have concerns about the psychological impact on your people. It was their choice, Chen replied simply. When faced with extinction, humanity has always been willing to transform itself rather than perish. The Arcturians offered us knowledge. What we did with it was entirely our decision. The fleet accelerated to FTL speeds, leaving the safety of Sol behind as they journeyed toward what would likely be the most significant battle in the history of both civilizations. 5 days later, they made contact with the enemy. The Harbinger Vanguard emerged from subspace at the edge of the Arcturus sector. 7 massive vessels, shaped like elongated diamonds, their surfaces absorbing light rather than reflecting it. They moved with an unnatural precision that suggested a hive mind or centralized intelligence. All vessels, battle formation Delta, Admiral Chen ordered. Navigator units, engage stealth protocols. Through the bioquantum network, the human navigators extended their consciousness across the fleet, creating a bubble of altered perception that masked their technological signatures. To conventional sensors, the fleet appeared to vanish, though they remained visible to optical observation. Harbinger vessels maintaining course, reported Tactical Officer Jen, who had transferred from the Harmonious Seeker to serve as liaison. No indication they've detected us. All vessels hold position, Admiral Calith ordered. Weapons systems on standby. The human-designed weapons were unlike anything in the collective arsenal. Rather than conventional energy weapons, they utilized what the humans called phase disruptors, devices that targeted the unique subspace field the Harbingers used to maintain their physical form in normal space. Enemy vessels approaching optimum firing range, Jen announced. 30 seconds to engagement zone. Chen turned to Calith. Once we open fire, they'll immediately adapt. We'll only have one chance at surprise. Calith nodded grimly. All vessels, target lead Harbinger vessel. Fire on my mark. The combined fleet waited in perfect silence as the enormous shadow ships approached, unaware of the trap they were gliding into. Mark. 57 phase disruptors fired simultaneously, their beams converging on the lead Harbinger vessel. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the massive ship began to distort, its perfect geometric form wavering as the phase disruption attacked the boundary between its existence in normal space and whatever dark dimension it partially inhabited. The effect was catastrophic. The Harbinger vessel collapsed in on itself, imploding into a singularity that quickly winked out of existence. Direct hit, Jen reported, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. Target destroyed. But the celebration was short-lived. The remaining Harbinger vessels immediately altered their configuration, extending tendrils of void-like material that seemed to tear through the fabric of space itself. Evasive maneuvers, Chen shouted. They're deploying void lances. The human ships responded instantly, their navigators anticipating the attack before it fully manifested. The collective vessels, lacking this neural integration, were slower to react. 3 of them were caught by the void lances, their hulls simply ceasing to exist where the dark energy touched them. Phase disruptors recharging, Tactical reported. 20 seconds to firing capacity. We don't have 20 seconds, Calith responded grimly as the Harbinger vessels accelerated toward them, void lances extending in all directions. Navigator Okafor, Chen called, "Initiate convergence protocol." On the navigator's display, Lieutenant Okafor's vital signs spiked dramatically. Acknowledged. Initiating convergence. The view screen shifted to show something extraordinary. The human vessels were beginning to move in perfect synchronization, their navigators linking consciousness to form a collective intelligence greater than the sum of its parts. Through this expanded awareness, they could anticipate the Harbinger's movements with preternatural accuracy. All collective vessels, Calith ordered, follow the human ship's lead. Match their evasion patterns. The battle that followed defied conventional tactics. The human vessels seemed to dance between the void lances, creating openings for the collective ships to fire conventional weapons at points the Harbingers left temporarily vulnerable. It wasn't enough to destroy the enemy vessels, but it kept the fleet intact long enough for the phase disruptors to recharge. Phase weapons online. Tactical announced. Ready to fire. Target the nearest Harbinger vessel, Chen ordered. Fire. This time, the Harbingers were prepared. The targeted vessel shifted partially out of normal space, the phase disruption causing damage but not the catastrophic collapse they'd achieved with the first attack. "They're adapting," Chen said grimly. As expected, Calith studied the tactical display, noting how the Harbinger vessels were altering their formation. "They're trying to separate our forces," he observed. "Divide and conquer." "Navigator Okafor," Chen called, "are you ready for full convergence?" Through the neural interface, Okafor's voice sounded distant, as if coming from multiple locations simultaneously. "Ready, Admiral. But the collective vessels won't be able to follow where we're going." Chen turned to Calith. "Admiral, we need to implement our contingency plan. Your vessels should withdraw to minimum safe distance. What comes next isn't something conventional ships can withstand." Calith hesitated, reluctant to retreat from battle. "What exactly are you planning?" "The final adaptation," Chen replied, her expression grim. "Full navigator convergence creates a quantum entanglement field that will temporarily draw the Harbingers into a state where they're fully materialized in our spacetime. They'll be vulnerable, but the process generates a subspace shockwave that would destroy conventional vessels." The implication was clear. The human ships were about to sacrifice themselves to create an opportunity that might not come again. "All collective vessels, withdraw to minimum safe distance," Calith ordered finally. "Maintain weapons lock on Harbinger vessels." As the collective ships pulled back, the human vessels formed a perfect circle around the Harbinger fleet, their navigators pushing their bioquantum systems to their limits. "Convergence at 70% and rising," reported the navigator's assistant. "Subspace distortion building." On the view screen, space itself seemed to warp around the human ships as they channeled unprecedented amounts of energy through their navigator interfaces. The Harbinger vessels, sensing the threat, attempted to retreat, but found themselves held in place by the growing quantum entanglement field. "Convergence at 95%, the assistant announced, his voice tense. Navigator vital signs becoming unstable. Admiral Chen's face remained composed, but Calith could see the pain in her eyes as she watched her people push themselves to the brink of death. "Convergence achieved," the assistant reported finally. "Field stabilizing. Harbinger vessels fully materialized. All collective vessels," Chen called, her voice steady despite everything. "Fire everything you have on the Harbinger fleet. You have approximately 30 seconds before the entanglement field collapses." Calith didn't hesitate. "All vessels, concentrate fire on Harbinger vessels. Maximum yield." The collective ships unleashed their full arsenal, their weapons finding purchase against the now vulnerable Harbinger vessels. One by one, the shadow ships shattered under the barrage, their material forms breaking apart without their partial existence in subspace to sustain them. On the view screen, the human vessels were beginning to show signs of structural failure as the enormous energies they were channeling exceeded their design parameters. "Entanglement field collapsing," the assistant reported urgently. "Navigator life signs critical. Initiate emergency disconnection," Chen ordered. "Get them out now." The final Harbinger vessel detonated under the Collective's barrage just as the entanglement field collapsed. A massive subspace shockwave erupted from where the field had been, washing over the human vessels before the Collective ships could reach safe distance. When the disruption cleared, the human fleet was still there, but heavily damaged. Emergency signals pulsed from several vessels, indicating catastrophic system failures. "Get rescue teams to those ships immediately," Caliph ordered. "Priority to vessels with navigator chambers." The aftermath revealed both victory and cost. The Harbinger Vanguard had been destroyed, the first significant defeat the Shadow Fleet had suffered in its relentless advance. But 16 human vessels were lost, their navigators paying the ultimate price to create the vulnerability that made victory possible. 3 days later, as the combined fleet limped back towards Seoul, Admirals Caliph and Chen stood in the Defiance's observation deck, looking out at the stars. "The Council has reviewed our battle records," Caliph said quietly. "They've authorized full implementation of the Navigator program across the Collective fleet, for any crews that volunteer." Chen nodded, her expression solemn. "And the Arcturians?" "Granted protected status within Collective space. Their knowledge will be crucial in the battles to come." The unspoken truth hung between them. This had been only the vanguard. The main Harbinger fleet was still out there, still advancing. They had won a crucial battle, but the war was just beginning. "You know," Caliph said after a moment, "the Collective has existed for 3 centuries. In all that time, we believed we were guiding younger species toward a brighter future. We thought we understood the natural progression of civilizations." "And now?" Chen asked. "Now I understand that progress isn't linear. Your people chose a different path, not better or worse, just different. While we focused on expanding outward, you focused on strengthening from within." Chen smiled faintly. "Necessity is a powerful motivator. When the Arcturians showed us what was coming, we had 2 choices: hide and hope the storm passed us by, or prepare to fight back." "It was more than that," Caliph observed. "You didn't just prepare yourselves. You prepared for allies you hadn't even met yet. The hybrid ships, the compatible systems. You were building not just for humanity's survival, but for the galaxy's." "Because we understood something fundamental," Chen replied. "No species survives alone. The Harbingers destroy civilizations by isolating them, making them believe they must face the darkness unaided." As the fleet approached the Sol system, signals from hundreds of new vessels appeared on the long-range sensors, ships from other Collective worlds, arriving to join the alliance that would stand against the coming storm. "It seems your council is taking the threat seriously," Chen observed. "Yes," Caliph agreed. "But more importantly, they're taking humanity seriously. Not as a primitive species to be guided, but as equals, perhaps even as teachers." The irony wasn't lost on either of them. The supposedly advanced Collective had nearly missed recognizing the sophisticated civilization hiding in plain sight, a civilization that now represented the galaxy's best hope against extinction. "The Harbingers believe technology is the infection," Chen said quietly. "But they're wrong. Connection is the cure between different species, different philosophies, different approaches to existence. That's what they truly fear." As the combined fleet entered Earth orbit, they were greeted by a stunning sight. Luna Actual had unfurled massive construction arrays, already beginning production of the next generation of hybrid vessels, ships that would incorporate the best of human innovation and collective engineering. "The main Harbinger fleet will reach the edge of Collective space in approximately 6 months," Chen said, studying the tactical projections. "We'll be ready." Caliph nodded, newfound respect evident in his posture. "Yes, Admiral, I believe we will." The galaxy was changing. Ancient assumptions were falling away as new alliances formed. And at the center of it all stood humanity, a species that had hidden its light not out of fear or deception, but